Do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name, and you are mine.
Well, initially I got involved with Ransom Life because my own daughter at the age of 15 was trafficked. And at that point, I knew nothing about human trafficking. I don't think I'd ever heard the term. And I had nowhere to go for direction. So it was a really, really scary time for our family.
A recent study from the University of Texas, it was published last year, and in that study they estimated that in Texas there are 313,000 people caught up in human trafficking. Of those, it's estimated that 79,000 of them are minors being used in the commercial sex industry.
One of the misconceptions that we find is that it's a certain area of town where these girls come from. And the reality is, sex trafficking does not discriminate. We have girls that come from all parts of town.
So these things aren't happening in some, seedy back alley in a third world country. It's happening here. It's happening in our backyards. It's happening in our schools, our churches. And the prey that they're looking for is our kids, our grandchildren.
The buyers are typically middle-aged men, college-educated, married, with a high enough income that they can afford to drop $200 or $300 for 30 minutes of sex with a 15-year-old.
So Ransom Life formed out of the desire to bring hope for these girls.
Typically, the traffickers are going after or luring or trying to entrap or manipulate younger girls. Their target market is middle school. They're vulnerable. They're just beginning to be in that age where they know better than mom and dad, that they can be their own person, that they can want to be independent. They're just beginning to understand the world of social media. They're not as savvy to not beginning relationships with people that they don't know.
When the girls come to us, they're pretty angry. They have been just so used and abused, and they feel alone. Even in their families, they yet feel alone because nobody really understands what they've been through.
Many of our young ladies struggle with having adapted unhealthy patterns in coping. Many of them have turned to various substances or behaviors to try to escape their pain. And so learning new strategies and reducing those unhealthy patterns, it can just take a long time, and it takes lots of practice.
We'd first started as with a mentoring program to have trained mentors that would intercede and walk with these girls through life.
We work on their identity, as many have bought into distorted beliefs about themselves.
Because these girls have been talked down to so much, and they have been made to believe that they have no value and no worth, and that their only purpose is to serve a man. Once they start to learn, and you see that self-esteem is being rebuilt, it's pretty amazing.
And then we started realizing that the community needed to be engaged and made aware and educated on what is this thing that we call sex trafficking. We see it on the news, but what is it?
My role at Ransom Life is that of a volunteer. I'm passionate about educating other people about the issue of human trafficking, and specifically what that looks like for a minor caught up in the world of the commercial sex industry, and then what we do at Ransom Life to provide hope.
People need to understand that these are local girls that are being impacted, and these are our kids.
Currently, less than half of 1% of the minors who get caught up in the world of commercial sex trafficking ever make it out. And of those who don't make it out, their life expectancy is around 7 years. That does not mean that after 7 years they're no longer involved. It means that if this begins for them when they're 13 or 14, they're not going to live to see their 21st or 22nd birthday.
These guys are working 24/7 to try to get our kids and victimize them. I can tell you that the problem is getting bigger, and it's getting more involved. But on the good side, we're also making strides in educating the public, which is key.
The challenge that we have today is we don't have a centralized location for our girls to come. Where Local comes in is it meets that need of a centralized location that our girls can call their own. A place where meetings can take place with families, a place where counseling sessions can take place, a place where group activities abound.
A place where the girls can put their own mark on it. They can choose paint colors and, they can make it frilly. And I can imagine, pink everywhere.
One of the visions that we have for local is that the girls that we love and serve, that they're there one evening and there's some volunteers that are cooking dinner, and there's this dining table that they're dining together at, and they're breaking bread with a mentor, with a staff member, with their counselor, and they are being served. And after dinner, after a great conversation, these volunteers that gave of their evening come and clean up the table. The mom and her daughter, and go into another room with a counselor, and they have that time together, just a mother-daughter session.
It's because of my faith that I do this. Had I not been a woman of faith, I don't think Ransomed Life would have come into play. These girls are so damaged, not just physically, but psychologically, spiritually, emotionally. And if we get a girl and we're working on healing her physically and not emotionally, then we're not doing her justice. And so we look at healing from a holistic viewpoint. We have girls who tell you that they don't believe in God, they want no part of God, and I just figure if we just give her the love, a godly, holistic kind of love, we just leave the rest up to Him.
I've seen Ransomed Life do some magic things in the lives of some of these young ladies that they're coming into contact with. They've got to, as I mentioned, change their way of thinking. Show them that there is true love out there. There are people that care for you. They show them another way of life. They show them that there is life after being trafficked.
The desire that I have for Ransomed Life is that every girl that comes to Ransomed Life would know that she is worthy, that she is loved, and regardless of all the lies that have been spoken into her life, that Ransomed Life brings hope, that Ransomed Life brings joy, that Ransomed Life brings peace that passes all understanding. Because our hope and our trust and our faith is that Jesus is the healer for these girls.
I think anyone who wants to make an impact and wants to make a difference should invest in Ransomed Life. Because it's more than Ransomed Life. You're investing in lives. You're investing in the lives of these girls. And you get to be part of something that is so much bigger than you. We see lives being changed. We see a difference being made. We see girls that have been just torn apart and torn down and little or no self-esteem. When we see that girl and she's blossoming and she is becoming the young woman that God created her to be, there is no better feeling. And what better investment could you make in life other than that?